There are 5 things I think we need to do to try to get us on the road to solvency and to value, the high-value healthcare. The first of which is a recognition that I think the system is broken. The status quo, as I tell people who work for me all the time, who don't like the change that I'm bringing, is the status quo is actually terribly dangerous to us as an institution. Because if you really want to be in the phone book 20 years from now, we got to change. It's also very important. I think it honestly is a threat to our national security if we cannot fix this healthcare thing. Because if in 2020 we're spending 20% of our GDP, 2030 it's going to be 25%. We are not going to have enough money. Think about this too, in terms of the national debt, and you know, we just keep borrowing. We spend $36 billion a month interest on our debt at the federal level. $36 billion a month. That's more than we spend in a year on Homeland Security. And we're just paying off debt. We're not even tackling the principle. So I think we have to recognize that value is what is needs to be delivered, and that we have to be held accountable for that. Because I think historically, and I was just sharing this with John, that we have had, I think, a culture of entitlement. We're talking about money. You can just pass the rates on to the commercial insurer. Even if we're inefficient, we're just going to jack our rates up. And we don't really ever produce our results in a transparent way that you can say, you know what, that's not such great results. Your patients with pneumonia are staying too long. You have patients with MIs who are dying too often. You have patients going back to the OR that shouldn't be. I think we have to begin to embrace this sense of being held accountable for the value of service that we provide. How high is the quality and what you pay for it? And are you satisfied? The other thing is, I think we have to transform the way we practice medicine. Right now, it's very siloed. I ran a group for 20 years. I have an understanding for how practices operate. Great docs. We have a wonderful community physician. But again, I think we are not coordinated. There's really no necessarily incentive for the coordination. So you'll be hearing something about patient-centered medical homes. You may have read something about that. But we're converting our primary care practices 2 or 3 at a time to something called patient-centered medical homes, where we're bringing together really teams of physicians and nurses and social workers to apply that value proposition right now to say, you know what? We need to keep people out of the hospital. 22% of people with congestive heart failure at our hospital last year got readmitted in 30 days. But you know what? That's actually the top quartile in the nation. But does that sound right to you? 22% of people are coming back in 30 days after we send them out. We got to fix that. $17 billion in Medicare funds were spent on readmissions last year because it's just a revolving door. We think, you know, once they're out of the hospital, just stay out of the hospital. And then what happens is they get the medicines wrong, they can't read the writing, whatever the case may be. The cardiologist doesn't speak to the primary care physician, the home care agency didn't get the discharge medicines. The patient starts to get short of breath, calls up the PCP, and the PCP says, go to the ED. The ED doesn't really know all this stuff and says, let's get you readmitted. And this happens all over America. I mean, we're good. We're in the top quartile on this. But we have to assemble teams of care in the outpatient world and pay them to go to the home and say, let's go through your medicine. Let's make sure you're taking it. Call me with your weight every day. If you gain 3 pounds, you're getting back into failure. I know that. We're going to come out and double your Lasix. This proactive, preemptive strategy. Because 20% of the beneficiaries in Medicare are responsible for 80% of the cost.